Hello, my name is Jeff Hayes, and this is a video of Oklahoma where criminal acts are committed against American citizens. And I'll show you proof and everything. This is an actual, real-life story that happened to me. I have all the irrefutable evidence in this video. This also will go through people that I reached out to. I'll actually show you the people that are dereliction in duty. And in Oklahoma, they can and do arrest you, and you don't even have to break a law. It happened to me. And because of you'll see here, I wasn't even working at this company for 2 months, and because he donated, this John Richard Roy donates money to the area here, to the law enforcement. He called in a favor, so if you donate and you expect something back from it, it's considered a bribe, not a donation. And no, they don't do things like in America. Okay, here's where the documentation, where I broke this down. It made it as easy and as plain forward as you can see. Okay, like I said, I wasn't even working there for 2 months, and here they're going to charge me with all that stuff. When everybody knows, according to federal and state labor law, when you're terminated at a place, nothing signed, nothing is whatever. Here they're accusing me of stealing trade secrets, which there was no larceny, there was no trade secrets. They decided to go ahead and manufacture, warp, distort. They tricked me into a judge trial instead of a jury trial like I had wanted. I spent 425 days in county lockup over this. Spent months at a work center, and then months at Avalon in Ardmore, and then was harassed for the following 6 years after that by the DA and Mark Campbell. And every time I go through this, I still have to remind myself. Now here's on Title 21. These are the actual Title 21 crimes and punishments. This is the template that states what is considered when you break a crime, when you break a law and commit a crime. The criteria in this has to meet, the evidence has to meet. You can't interpret it any other way. It has to fit the criteria, the evidence has to match what's stated in this in order for it to be considered evidence to a charge, to where it shows that you actually broke the law and somebody's not thinking that you broke a law. Here's the definition of extortion. It's stating threats. That's like, if you don't bring me this, then I'm going to beat you up, or whatever. You're making a threat to a person. You're expecting them, there's if they don't comply, or if they do comply, that's extortion. That's a threat, a means of force, or any threat. It has to be directed at the person or company or whatever, and you're expecting something from that. So you actually have to come out, according to this law, it actually has to be stated that you actually have to come out and threaten that person or organization or entity. You can't just state, like, if this happens, then this is going to happen. Well, if this happens, da-da-da-da. If this happens, da-da-da-da. If you're not expecting anything from that organization, entity, or person, you're just stating like a conclusion of a situation. That's not a threat. A threat is where you threaten an individual, entity, or organization. That is deemed as a threat according to Title 21. And you have to threaten to do something to them. If you're just stating something that's going to happen, if or you're not requesting anything from any entity, person, or anything, not threatening anyone, then that's not a threat. That's just stating of what's going to happen in a situation. Here's trade secret. There was never any larceny. Nothing was stolen. There was no trade secrets. A trade secret is something that a company is doing within its trade that no other companies know about, which gives that company the economical edge. This never was proven. John Richard Roy said that it was a trade secret, and it's not. And the Oklahoma judicial system, the judge and the DA, didn't care. I guess they thought I didn't know what a trade secret was, but apparently I knew more than they did. That's why I couldn't believe that they were charging me with this and was holding me for it. It was like a nightmare. And like I said, I was an innocent American citizen. I'm a veteran. And because somebody wanted me arrested, they went and did it without any evidence. And they tried to fabricate it and play it along. Welcome to Oklahoma. And you'll see as this unfolds, because I'm going to show you the state's evidence, which doesn't even fit the criteria of Title 21, Crimes and Punishments. Doesn't even come close. But since the fix was in, and it was a judge trial in Oklahoma, the judge doesn't have to follow the laws stated. So you're in a whole different country in Oklahoma. You're not in America when it comes to the judicial system. Now here's where it says larceny. There was no dollar value of anything. Nothing was taken, nothing was embezzled, nothing was stolen. And apparently Emily Redmond and Mark Campbell and Rocky Powers and all the members of the Oklahoma Criminal Court of Appeals can't read, because they would have to follow this. And none of the evidence fits this. And they also left out a lot of important things, like the American Consumer Protection Act, my federal rights, my civil rights. They were just having a field day. And in Oklahoma, there's no checks and balances here. It's business as usual when they screw an American citizen over and then extort money out of them. So here we're going to go into the state's evidence. So as the evidence unfolds, this is what we've seen. And that's their own statute. Now here's the email. They're stating that this was attempted extortion. Now, the email does not direct any threat toward Eagle Suspension, John Richard Roy, or anybody. It just makes a plain statement. Nothing's being demanded, nothing's being requested from John Richard Roy or Eagle Suspension, any entity or agents of. I mean, nothing is being requested from them. So there's no threat, there's no anything to these people. So here's where they're stating, like the OESC economical saying that whatever. So this is just an email. It just states a condition of what would happen on circumstance. And since I wasn't allowed to go to my second appeal as a man of my word, these documents are still up on Facebook and YouTube. They didn't cause any harm to the company at all. They're not trade secrets. It was just John Richard Roy trying to cover up his incompetence. Now you'll see that it doesn't meet any threats. There's no nothing's being demanded from Eagle Suspension nor John Richard Roy for compliance or non-compliance. This is just a simple statement upon a conclusion of a situation, dictating conclusions. An example here is, if I win the lottery, I will buy you a house and put your property you left at my apartment in. If I lose the lottery, I will not buy you a house and throw said property away. It's just dictating results upon a conclusion of a situation. There was no extortion, nothing was demanded. Now here it states in Title 21, if you download the Oklahoma Statute Title 21, Crimes and Punishments, this phrase that says, are written in everyday language to avoid any wrongful interpretation of any statute indicated herein, so that no doubt when a law is actually being broken. Apparently Emily Redmond, Mark Campbell, the judicial members of the OCCA uh, either can't read or just don't want to comprehend this. They just want to do things their way because they're not following the procedure of America. And America believes in justice. Apparently, Oklahoma does not. Here's the property that they're saying. OESC determines who gets what. Not me, not John Richard Roy, not Eagle. Here's how the procedure goes. Years ago, they changed the second appeal to where you could take it to small claim courts because they've been a finding of a lot of companies in Oklahoma conducting themselves criminally against their workforce. So, because OASC only follows federal and state labor laws. They don't have anything to do with criminal. So even though in my first appeal I showed proof of criminal activity, they couldn't do anything about it because they won't deviate. Now here's where on site where I found tampering with a signed document. Now this is federal. You can't tamper with a signed document without the person that signed it there to have them either initial and date what's the amendments or whatever. This has been known since I was a kid. If you tamper with a signed document, it jeopardizes the integrity of said document, and any documents that are gathered by that tampered document are inadmissible as evidence and can be thrown out. So I would have won my second appeal going to a small claims court because you'll notice here there's the original document. There's nothing written in the remarks. Nothing. And of course, this is a life-changing document, so you have to follow procedure on these. Like if you lose your income because of this or whatever, now you'll see it's signed. That means Marla, whatever her name, Yolanda or whatever, at this point neither one of us can make changes to this document without being amended or whatever in front of the other person. To make amendments to this document without the other person being there and taking the precautions that are stated that how you can amend this document. Now you'll see in this one, this is when we got a copy back. And I noticed that somebody had made amendments to this signed document without my knowledge. And they even dated it in their own handwriting. And this was Marley Andell. And it's a signed document. So this would have been thrown out. I would have won my unemployment case had I not been arrested. And Eagle got a copy of this, and they got a copy of my intent. So they knew what I was going to do. And this would have put Simply Safe in jeopardy also for breaking the law. And I would have won my unemployment case. But they had me arrested without any evidence. And welcome to Oklahoma. We're not in America anymore. See, I would have won my second appeal. Now here's where I hadn't worked for this company for 2 months, and they're stating this as state's evidence. None of this fits criteria because it's all void and null. Because at the moment Eagle suspension fired, terminated my employee, all bets are off. Any documents signed, anything, and they had 2 months. And then they can come back. You can't come back 2 months later and just charge somebody with nothing. There's no trade secrets or anything over a document that doesn't state what they say it states. We were never given an orientation. We were sat in a room. Papers were handed out to us. We were told to sign them or we wouldn't be able to get a job. And they were collected back up, and we weren't given copies of them. I didn't see copies of these until the trial. See, and Rocky Powers could have stopped this as a judge if he was following the law and doing the duties of his office. He was a preliminary, and he said there was enough evidence, which there isn't at all. The DA knew there wasn't. That was Emily Redmond and Tim Webster. See, it only says disclosure, secrets, confidential documents, but I'm ex-military. I held a secret security clearance. I know how confidential and classified documents are supposed to be treated, marked, and handled. And these aren't. Any QA sheet or the specs to any leaf spring OEM can be requested by any manufacturer, and Ford or whoever will send them a copy just like this to see if they can make it and put it a lower bid, because that's how this industry's done, by who can do it for the lowest bid. There's nothing confidential on this. There's no trade secrets. So you're starting to see where this was like none of the evidence falls in. And so you can get this information by just simply requesting it from underneath the American Consumer Protection Act, which you can have full disclosure on anything that a consumer buys in the United States of America. I mean, there was no money, no nothing. And this just shows what a farce this whole thing was. It was a sham because somebody with money wanted me arrested. And Oklahoma prosecutor and the Oklahoma judicial members were more than happy to comply in violating my federal and civil rights. As an American citizen, they had no qualms or quarrels about committing criminal acts against me. See, and they're saying that even if NDA, I never signed an NDA. That was between Eagle and Freightliner, and an NDA is part of Freightliner's standard contract, so that's not a trade secret either. And the contract is only good between the people that signed it, not anybody else. There was never any full orientation by OSHA and training standards. Any training that any employee is given or requires must be backed up by written documentation of training and steps and procedures and protocols that are followed within. You can't do, well, I trained them and it's taken its thing. John Richard Roy showed no evidence whatsoever of his testimony. Besides, he wasn't even present, so how can he testify on something? And see, the state didn't even care about that. The prosecutor and the judge. I mean, Campbell had a field day. And I was for sure that my appeal would have been caught. They would have caught all this. But not in Oklahoma. Not in Oklahoma. You know, you're not in Kansas anymore in Oklahoma. You know, you're not in America because your federal and civil rights are violated. And they can do it to anybody they want. And once they got you locked in jail and confiscate everything, and, you know, you're just screwed. Now, here's where my OCCA appeal. Now, I didn't find out till 05/18/2020 why my appeal was denied. And this is when Wallace Copeland, on that day for a hearing against Mark Campbell for was against him, and that's when Wallace Copeland spent 10 to 15 minutes explaining that no judge goes against another judge because the other judges might think that they don't like them. And after hearing this, I knew he wasn't going to follow and do his job and do justice. I knew he was just going to jump right in with the rest of them and commit a criminal act against me. And this was a conflict of interest case against Mark Campbell. And these people, members of the OCCA, just jumped right aboard. They didn't care. And it says who they serve. They don't serve the people or anybody. They just serve judicial members themselves. It's like their own little Spankies gang that, you know, doesn't care about American citizens' federal or civil rights, which judges are supposed to. Here's the members. And as we get a closer look at it, you'll see that they have had education, so there shouldn't be a problem with them being able to read, and there shouldn't be a problem with them being able to understand what the duties and responsibility of their office is. But apparently that's a big problem here in Oklahoma. Because like I said, you're not in America when you're in Oklahoma. You're in Oklahoma, and anything goes, apparently. And they all look happy. They know they're getting over, screwing people over. They screwed me over, and there's no telling how many countless other of innocent American citizens have been wrongfully treated in Oklahoma. Here's this guy here. Uh, Apparently, he's had some education, and apparently, he still doesn't know the function of his position to uphold justice and look out for federal and civil rights of American citizens to make sure that nothing bad is happening to them. They're not being abused by the court system or the members of the court system, but these people are part of the problem. This is any American citizen's last hope of getting an appeal. And they will not overturn another judge's decision in spite of the evidence. They don't care about the evidence. They're part of a gang, Judicial Members gang, and they're not going to go against each other. Not in Oklahoma. So there's no telling how many innocent Americans have been victimized by the Oklahoma judicial system and judicial members. And these all seem to be very competent and educated people, but why aren't they doing their jobs? I mean, there's no reason for them to be violating American citizens' federal and civil rights. There's no reason why they shouldn't be looking over the evidence to make sure that a wrongful decision hasn't been made. So let's take a look at the United States Constitution and see what it says, because this states the law of the land. This is what the judges are supposed to be following. Now it says here that is made to where all judges must exercise and follow the law of the land. Here's a closer look at it. And see where Article 3, where it states that all judicial officers are bound, both the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath to support this Constitution. And in this Constitution states our federal and civil rights. Now here's the Oklahoma Constitution. Let's see what it says. Because if you go to the preamble, it states that it will follow the supreme law of the land, the federal. It states that it's an inseparable part of the federal union. So the Oklahoma Constitution is saying that you've got to follow the United States Constitution. So what's wrong with these judges? It doesn't say that you can violate it. Okay, now here's where the Oklahoma members of the OCCA serve only themselves and other judicial members. Well, this is when later on when I had that conflict of interest case, and Americans, they don't care about American citizens. They're judicial members in Oklahoma. They're immune to retribution, I guess, from the law. And of course, I marked out honorable on all of these because these people I've met personally, there's nothing honorable about them. Now the OCCA members I haven't met personally, but just true to their acts, I wouldn't consider them honorable either. And this is where Copeland, he didn't follow protocol in this case. He strictly made it up as he went along and found nothing. But he would rather hang out with the corrupt judicial members that, go against and commit criminal acts against American citizens. He wants to be with the in game, the in crowd. Now here it says Oklahoma Constitution. Well, yeah, if the judicial members follow the Oklahoma Constitution, you can get a fair trial, but not if they don't, and these people won't. We're not in America anymore. We're in Oklahoma. And these people are so proud of what they're doing, and so will feel so immune to act against criminal acts against American citizens that they don't care. I mean, all the irrefutable evidence throughout my whole case was provided by the state. Because they've been getting away with it so long, they didn't cover anything up. And this is basically my honest opinion about these people here. You got where witnesses by our hand and the seal of this court. It's not a seal of Oklahoma. It's not their hands of actual legitimate judicial members acting in the good faith of their office to dispense justice. It's a bunch of people just covering up for other judicial members. And they are guilty as far as I'm concerned. Every piece of evidence I've seen about them supports it. Now here's where I reached out to senators, governors. I've been doing this ever since back in 2015, trying to get somebody to pay attention. So first off, I started off with my local representative, David Ballard. And the only person I got a response from was his either secretary or the person that answers his phone. He in person never returned an email, never contacted me. I'm not sure what his position or job is supposed to do, but these are the people when American citizens have problems with their government or both state and federal that you're supposed to go to and they're supposed to help you, and these people did not even answer because they knew about the problem and they just buried their heads in it, or they're rubbing elbows with the gang. See, here's the actual emails I sent. I sent this one, and his assistant answered it, but then he was never contacted, and there's been several more, and I just didn't feel like tying up the space on this video, putting them down there, because basically he never responded back. I don't know what his actual function is or what he thinks he's supposed to be doing, but senator, I think it has a description somewhere. I mean, especially since I have overwhelming, irrefutable proof that proves my innocence and proves their guilt and proves that they violated my federal and civil rights as an American citizen, which proves that they don't care about American citizens and their rights. See, and he never got back to me at all. And he's local. He lives right here in Durant somewhere, rubbing his elbows with all the unsavory other characters. And this is when the conflict of interest. And this is all true. He's not fit. I mean, and he might not be prejudiced against me. He might just do this to everybody that offers him money to do it. But that shows prejudice against people that weren't offered money, that he is willing to violate their rights and convict them of crimes that there's no evidence on. So in Oklahoma, don't ever take a judge trial. I don't care what it is. It's a scam. And you can't hire a lawyer or anything because they all tell you it's a conflict of interest. They don't want to go against each other, and a judge will never overturn another judge's decision in Oklahoma. So you're stuck with having to go to the Supreme Court. So in this video, I decided I would include the people I reached out to and show the proof that, yes, there's irrefutable proof. There's 34 videos on YouTube under two playlists: corruption in Oklahoma. I think it's like 2020, 2021, or 2019, 2020. You'll find them in here. Just follow the playlist, and it'll give you detailed every event that was perpetrated against me illegally by the judicial system of Oklahoma and its members. Because Oklahoma doesn't have a grand jury, so these people can charge anybody with a felony, and they can hold you in jail, make your bail so high, or make it a cash bond only, to where you can't get out, and hold you till you break. I've seen it happen. I mean, it's like a communist or Nazi setup. I mean, it's not America here in Oklahoma. It's not. You know, I would never believe this if anybody told me until it happened to me. And see, I even say to them, Oklahoma is unfriendly to Americans, citizens. That's my belief, and every bit of evidence that is in this video proves it. And if you go through the videos in the playlist, both of them, of the corruption in Oklahoma playlist, you'll see it too. And this could happen to you. Now, I received a call from Senator Lankford's office today, and the individual there stated that they were going to look into it. Now, this has been going on. I've been contacting these people for 6 years, and finally somebody answered it. So I hope something comes of this, but I don't really have my hopes up that high. It's more or less to patronize me or something, oh, poor person, blah, blah, and nothing's going to actually happen. See, and this is everything I kept getting back from his office up until today, when I finally was contacted via phone, was telling me to hire a lawyer. Well, no lawyer will take it because they'll say it's conflict of interest. No judge will go against another judge decision in Oklahoma. It's like their own little Spankies gang of cruelty and unusual abuse to American citizens' federal rights and civil rights. They don't care, as long as they're raking in the money, or because they don't care about actually prosecuting crime. They just care about the numbers of people they prosecuted. And from my personal experience, the DA will distort, the judges will go with it, and the judge is supposed to be a moderator. He's supposed to make sure that your rights are followed, are taken into consideration, and that the evidence meets the charge. They're supposed to go through it. And see, here's where I sent him an email. I sent the same one to all of them. Well, perhaps I'm going to have to start including you guys that I reach out to. Apparently, just because Emily Redmond was kind of like unofficially forced into retirement. Campbell, I'm not really sure what happened, but he didn't get his federal judge position, which he didn't deserve anyway. If you're not a person of integrity, an actual, true, honorable, and honest person, you should not be a judge at all. If you don't have any integrity and you can be corrupt and you're willing to go with the crowd instead of do what's right, then you shouldn't be a judge or a DA. They're lucky I'm not. I don't go with the crowd. I was brought up to do the right thing, which makes me discommunicated a lot, but I have myself to face in the morning and my Lord to face, because I'm not going to jeopardize my afterlife for anybody or any amount of money. And I don't care if people like me. If I accept a job or something like that, I do it to the best of my ability. Now, this is where I'm saying I received a call from his office today, which surprised me. Almost hung up on it because, you get so many of them prank calls. So, we'll see. Hopefully something good will come out of this. But he's the only one, I'll have to say, at this time, has ever contacted me back, but it's been a while, since 2015. Now, this guy here, he's never returned an email. I called his phone line one time and talked to one of his individuals, and was explaining the situation that somebody, and this individual had explained to me that due to his ethical code of conduct, they aren't allowed to do anything against somebody that has violated their ethical code of conduct. Now, see, I still don't get what that means. I mean, isn't their job, when you have a problem, since they're your congressmen, with the judicial uh, organizations and stuff that are doing un-American things to Americans, aren't these people supposed to stand up and say something? And it's true. The truth of it is, it's not that they can't, it's just that they won't. Doing the right thing might cost them donation. They may not be able to get that Cadillac or reelected, but if you got to be a criminal to be a senator, then it's not America. And you've lied to your constituents and the people in your district. So you just ought to come out and tell the truth and tell them, hey, you elect me. I don't care anything about you guys. I'm in this for my own self, my own personal gain, and I'm going to screw you guys over at any time, so don't even bother calling my office. That's what they should say in Oklahoma. That's the truth. Now, the governor, I don't know anything about this guy. He seems to be very positive about Oklahoma, but he needs to get his hands on the pulse here in the judicial system and find out exactly what's going on, because what he needs to do is clean house. Because you've got all these corrupt individuals still hanging in there and doing business as usual, committing criminal acts against American citizens on a daily basis. And there's so much corruption in this state because of it. Oklahoma has one of the highest state taxes, but is one of the poorest states when it comes to how it's redistributed through the population. So somebody's pocketing some money somewhere. But I also know this around this area, the companies and employers in this area, very few of them actually are reputable to where they care about their workforce. The rest of them just abuse it until, nobody will work for them anymore. And then they complain that they can't find any good workers in Oklahoma when they, abused and used them, and now they've been blacklisted by the local workforce, and the word's been put out on them, and they don't care. And this is an un-American position that issues that Oklahoma has at the moment. And it is an unfriendly state to American citizens. They will prosecute you in a heartbeat if they think they can get away with it. See, and I get this same letter. I've sent him attachments in his emails, actual irrefutable proof, and this is the same response I get. Contact the Council on Judicial Complaints. Well, they're coming up. I'm going to show you just how screwed up this is. This organization, the COJC, is supposed to keep these people in line, the judicial members in line, but they don't. They're just a shell or empty organization that they get paid to. I wish I had a job like that. Just get paid to just BS people. That's all they do. But if you look at their charter, they're supposed to do much more, but they don't. They always come up with the same excuse that the Oklahoma Constitution and statutes prevents them from doing their job. And I've got a few examples. See, now here's a small thing that says what their mission statement is. We'll say that that's what this is. And I've got a bigger, more readable one coming up. This is on their website. Keeping judicial members in line is not what they do. They pretty much just whitewash it, send you a letter or something showing that, they've looked at it, and then it's business as usual with the judicial members that are committing crimes against American citizens. Criminal crimes, actually. And this is bogus. This whole statement here, if you look at how many complaints, and I submitted irrefutable proof, the court's own documentation that showed their criminal activities against me and their noncompliance with the Title 21 crimes and punishments, as far as the evidence and everything, and the conduct unbecoming of irrefutable proof, and they still won't do anything. Still would not. They would say their every excuse is Oklahoma's constitution and statutes prevents them, even though the evidence, the irrefutable proof beyond belief, is staring them right in the face. Documents signed by these law-breaking judicial members. It's staring them right in the face, and they still don't do anything. It's unreal. Like I said, we're not in America anymore. We're in Oklahoma. Where as an American, you can be violated at any moment. And yeah, I'm currently being blacklisted for doing the right thing, exposing these people. You know, doing the right thing is not a liked thing in Oklahoma. It's not rewarded. I mean, you got to go with the flow. If everybody's corrupt, then you need to be corrupt. This is the flow of things. There's no, like, honest to God, honorable, and decent people that I've run into, majority of them, in the judicial system. Some might be. I'm not saying all of them are crooked or corrupt, but the ones that aren't crooked and corrupt are standing by just watching this happen and letting it happen. So that doesn't make them very good people. When a good person stands by and does nothing while evil is continued to run up rampant raid, then that good person isn't really that good of a person at all. I mean, personally, I'd stand up and say something, and I usually do, and I usually get uh, tossed to the side as far as like, well, you're not, compliant with what's going on right now. Well, I'm not a crook. I'm an honest person. I'm not going to jeopardize my afterlife just to, you know, rub elbows with a bunch of, corrupt and criminal people. I mean, when I give my word, I keep it. And I've always been guilty of doing the right thing. I've stood up for other people and been targeted and wrongfully terminated from positions. If a company is disreputable and does illegal things, and I'll stand up for somebody. And I know I'll be fired for unrelated thing that's made up, you know. But like I said, I have myself and my God I have to live with. And my afterlife means more to me than just rubbing elbows with people that aren't don't care about anything other than what's now and happening. They don't care about the future of the state, the organization, the company, or nothing. They're just what's happening now and themselves. Now here's the instructions on how to fill this thing out. This complaint. And here's violations. Of course, I use several of them. Gross negligence of duty, corruption in office, gross partiality, and it was all true, and nothing ever happened, and I even showed proof of it. Now, see, I'm going to show you these responses and everything, because you see right here, all disciplinary matters before the council on judicial complaints are confidential. These documents and responses are not before the judicial council anymore, because they've already stated in their responses that they are not going to do anything. So these are not confidential, and they are not personally or confidential. See, this is the excuse they always use. The Oklahoma Constitution is used in every case as an excuse why they can't take any action. It's the Oklahoma Constitution and statutes. Responses, more or less excuses. The first couple you'll see were I received after I submitted a complaint. Of course, you know, there's CYA action going on here. After I submitted a complaint and I received a response saying that they acknowledge the complaint, it's, you know, they have it. But see, the one thing in Oklahoma, since I guess it's not America, and they just do things weird, if you have like a judge that commits all these crimes and finally is found, if he's retired, they won't do anything. So if you're a professional criminal as a judicial member and you retire, you can't be held up for all the people's lives you screwed up because you were corrupt. Even if it's found later that, you know, you were the one that did it, they can't touch you. You can retire with a pension or whatever as a retired criminal, as a retired judicial member in Oklahoma. Exempt from any prosecution or anything. So already know that the United States Constitution states that judicial officers must uphold the law of the land, the federal law. And the Oklahoma Constitution validates that. So why aren't these judicial members doing that? Because apparently they don't have to in Oklahoma. So you'll see here, the Constitution is using every one of these responses back on why they cannot do anything about this. Even though I have shown them irrefutable proof. And every one of these, irrefutable proof was accompanied with a complaint. And the same excuse. That's where I turned in all the OCCA members for not doing their jobs, because after Wallace Copley said that they wouldn't overturn a judge's decision even if it was a wrongful decision, because they don't care. They look out for each other. That there is guilty of dereliction of duty and the responsibilities and duties of the office in which they hold. And of course, nothing came of it. I turned Campbell in several times. Turned Wallace Copley in. Turned the judicial members of the OCCA because they're guilty of negligence and dereliction of duty. I turned the DA into the Bar Association. But all these are in videos in my 2 playlists, which will go more into detail of each and every event that I had to, you know, been put through. I mean, it just makes you wonder. How are these people getting away with this in America? Well, that's what brings me to the conclusion, we're not in America anymore. We're in Oklahoma, where American citizens are having criminal acts committed against them without any care of being retribution taken against these judicial members and DA. It's just that they don't care, because they're not going to be, they'll have to politely bow out and get their retirement. And In the meanwhile, everybody's lives, innocent Americans' lives, they've screwed up. Have to try to piece it together while these criminals retire with full pensions and everything in Oklahoma. So it makes you stop and think about wanting to move here, retire here, or anywhere, because at any time it could be you. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I didn't break any laws, and it was me, because somebody who had money and was worried about their position because of their incompetence paid, basically, if you want to break it down to the nitty-gritty, paid to have me arrested and prosecuted and wrongfully, every bit it was for wrongfully in violation of my federal and civil rights as an American citizen. And I've been put through this nightmare for over 6 years. Only in Oklahoma, because we're not in America now. See, this should never happen in America. But we're not in America. We're in Oklahoma. Apparently, the Oklahoma judicial system and members can't read the United States Constitution, can't read the Oklahoma Constitution, can't read their own canon, code of ethics, or anything like that. They don't know what justice is. So, you make your own opinion on this and check out the whole playlist, and you'll see. I wouldn't move to this state if I were you, because you never know what's going to happen. Every detailed thing that I've had to go through, here's the links that go to YouTube, which will let you see every situation I've been put through. You'll see one of them 17 videos, the other one's 17, 16. All of them have irrefutable proof on them, and you'll get to understand what I mean by this video. We're not in America anymore. We're in Oklahoma. Thank you very much.